Welcome, fellow page tours. Welcome back to the Friday conversation number 153. Once again, the only one who wants to put up with my shit is Jose from Jose's Amazing Worlds of Fantasy.
Likewise, reciprocity. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. But so yeah, we have a few topics, but we'll see kind of where things take us. But it's that time of year, October. The weather's changing. It's raining there, and it's raining here, and the gloomy.
Absolutely.
So I guess one of the topics we had is horror and whether or not it should be scary, and what is scary. I think last year we talked with Susanna about horror and the real horror. What's scarier. So it's an interesting topic to discuss.
We seem to come back to the same conversations with a certain periodicity. Now, because you mentioned that, it's like, oh yeah, like okay. The reason I brought this up is because obviously, being the creative types that we are all reading a scary book in October because that's what we do. And I just finished The Lonely Lands by Ramsey Campbell. It's got a lifetime, you know, whatever award it is. I should actually have checked it out. Meant to be a horror writer. And the book's not scary, it's not horror. Yes, it's got elements of the paranormal, but that doesn't necessarily make it scary, as in make you afraid or a sense of fear or dread. So, yeah, I think horror is just this big label that we stick on many books or authors, but when you actually go down to it, it isn't. I don't know
Hmm.
what's your take on that.
I think it's tough because scary is different for everyone. I mean, some people get scared with slashers, and slashers I think are the most boring shit ever. I don't get slashers at all. But some people get scared with it. It gives them that anxiety and fear, and they're worried about a guy carrying a knife, knocking on doors, and killing unsuspecting families. And that's cool. I mean, that's your thing. That's cool. But I think it's subjective. Everyone is scared of something. I thought it was interesting that we were talking before we went live about, you know, age and health, and is that scarier than, now that I think about it, is getting older, dealing with family with health problems, dealing with just health and life in general, is that scarier than a knife wielding maniac knocking on your door?
So, yes, to address all your points, I love a good old slasher movie because you get the jump scare.
Yeah.
The jump scare, I've always said, is an easy one to pull. Isn't it? All you
Yeah.
need is a quick twist of the camera, and you get the jump scare. Obviously, translate that to the page in a book, it
Hmm.
doesn't quite work. You cannot do jump scares in a book, so I understand that. You have to find that elusive sense of fear in some other way. It has to be maybe more psychological. I don't know. And again, back to the whole health thing, it depends on what's real to you or what's more closer to you.
Hmm.
I suppose, like, I'm not even, well, I'm officially old. I'm 45. Um,
Is that
yeah,
official now?
in soccer terms, I'm in the second half. So,
Okay.
uh, and I've got young kids. So you start contemplating, or maybe too soon, but I've started contemplating my own mortality. My parents are getting old; they're starting to
Hmm.
get certain diagnoses. So I'm contemplating that maybe, you know, 10 years in the future, my parents may not be around, and my children are going to be adults officially. So yeah, you start contemplating the future, your mortality, what's going to happen to your kids, how you're going to deal with your parents, and yeah, those things. Maybe not necessarily scary, but there is a sense of dread and a sense of, you know, to deal with the unexpected, and it's easy to get into your head and
Hmm.
start, you know, making productions in your head about what's going to happen or how things could go, and that gives you that existential crisis, maybe that. when you get to my age, maybe people start having.
Yeah, it's my parents are both having health problems now too, and it's strange to see that we could because they're the experts in your life for so long, and then before you know it, it's you're taking care of them in some ways, and it's this juxtaposition. But with slashers, there's because I know Stephen Graham Jones writes slashers. He does pretty well. I like his writing, but the slasher genre just isn't for me. So his books don't really scratch that itch for me. But I think the scarier part of horror is not being in control, like possession, or being outmatched by this otherworldly force that is just toying with you that you can't see or hear, and it kind of controls your reality in some way. So that not having control, I think, is the scarier thing for me, and as far as horror goes.
Mm, I think, I don't know, maybe you need to dig out the episode number from a year ago, and we need to refer people back to that sort of thing, because we may retread some familiar ground here. But I think that's maybe a theme of a lot of, not being the expert here, Stephen King books. But I don't find that scary because the stand, isn't that what it is? There's some unmovable otherworldly force that is pushing events to the final conclusion, and that didn't do anything for me. And I'm just going to reiterate myself for the umpteenth time. I think the short story is the natural habitat of horror. I think that's when you can actually, because I think horror requires a certain intensity of emotion that you cannot spread out over hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Yeah, I think it's it's a tough thing to do, and like Stephen King, like the Dark Tower series, I don't think is horror.
Yeah, I don't
Most of
think
it's
it's
not
meant to
horror.
be.
No, it's supposed to be. It's more fantasy. But yeah, I think maybe that's why. What's strange is I agree with you. I think the short story novellas or shorter novels, like 300 pages or so, is a sweet spot for most horror. But the most prolific and successful horror writer ever is Stephen King. So maybe we're in the minority.
I'm comfortable being in that minority, actually. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, what do we know?
Nothing.
No, but it's true. Like I'm checked out of you know an 800-page novel termed as horror. Yeah, you read if you read it, the ending is a little bit gross and a little bit unexpected, and no one wants to talk about it. Um, but the horror that comes from there is not from any supernatural element. It's not from the clown. It's from the actions of the children, which is something so, because it's conceivable. That's what makes it horrific.
Maybe that's that. I've tried to read it so many times. I could not. I could not do it. I've tried. I keep throwing in the towel before the end. It's just so long, and I'm just not a fan of Stephen King's writing style. He's very overly descriptive.
In a way that actually I've never managed to figure out what time period he's writing in. I always feel his detail is so lacking that you don't know whether his books are set in the 70s, in the 80s, or in the 90s. There's no way to time code them. But that's not. I mean, the descriptions are not an issue for me. But books like it's just, again, it's the ending. But you could
Mhm.
have got there in a way shorter period of time, and the ending would have been more impactful. Or something like Pet Cemetery. The ending is that ellipsis at the end and that twist at the end, which would have been maybe a perfect short story
Hmm.
rather than a novel. And I've got a horrible feeling, Steve, that we had this exact same conversation a year ago.
No, I think we talked more about what's scarier? I think what we were kind of getting at is the horrors of real life is the
Okay.
real horror, not so much
Yeah,
literary, but
yeah, that rings a bell. That's true.
yeah. But speaking of genres and staying away from 800-page books, I think you've talked about this recently about kind of being burnt out on long books and long fantasy books.
That's right. That's right. The last chunk that I got through was in August. It's a historical fiction on Roman Empire set during the Second Punic War, and since then, I've stayed away from anything over 450 pages, and I intend to do so for the near future as well.
Yeah, I've wondered recently with because there's so many fantasy series out there, and really when you think about it, there's only a few that stand out. Like after you read them, you hear about them and you hear how wonderful they are, so you slog through them and you think it's pretty much what I read every other. They're very similar. A lot of these stories are very similar. So
Yeah.
so I wonder if it's less that we're excited to read another long series or another long chunker, or is it something that we think we should be doing for some reason?
No, I think it's like with everything. The more you delve into a topic, I think the more discerning you become, and you realize. So it's a bit of any possibly with everything. 10% is going to be amazing. 80% is going to be average at best, and 10% is going to be awful. And hopefully that adds up to 100%. So the more fantasy you read, the more discerning you're going to become. And whenever you hit one of those peak series that you go, wow, this really is it for me, a lot of what you're going to read after, you're going to measure against that and you're going to go, it's not that good.
Mhm.
And you probably, once you hit one of those peak series, there's going to be a lot of disappointments after, you know, grim as that sounds, but it's possibly, I think I'm speaking possibly truth, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it does. You do become more discerning, and and everyone's peak series is different. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
everyone's so. But I think when you set how that you have your own standard of what peak is, it's tough for other things to get close to it. And even you know, there's so many. I think another problem with these series is that every book is 500 to 1,000 pages,
Mm,
and they're all so similar. They're all. It's tough to these people who read fantasy for years and years and years and never read anything else kind of feel sorry for you because you're missing out on so many great books. I mean, there's so many different genres of book, and
yeah.
it's just the same genre. I mean, and a few, of course, I shouldn't say feel sorry for them, but it just there's so many other works out there that you could be enjoying. Take a break and read something else.
Yeah, I say the problem, inverted commas, there with fantasy is the world building and the cliches, and you got certain beats that you have to go through, and you have to get descriptive to get into. I've always been reluctant to start a new series because I've always been reluctant to discover a new world. That always
Mhm.
felt like hard work. So you always have got this setup at the beginning where they have to explain to you how the world works, what's different about it. If you got a hard magic system, guaranteed you're going to have a scene where the young protagonist goes through some initiation ritual where the magic system is explained to you, and that's just dry. Um, and all the tropes of the chosen one, the Dark Lord, the found family, the all that sort of stuff, and you're going through the tropes and the beats, and you know it does get a little bit hard work at times.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean there are things. I'm still reading fantasy, but I don't know, things that I can pick and leave. So like Dresden Files, I enjoy it, but because this kind of every book is sort of auto conclusive, I can pick one and then pick another one 5 months later and it still works. Or Now I'm sort of doing the Farfair and the Grey Mouse series by Fritz Leiber, but again, they are shorter stories. So I can pick a book, maybe read a couple of short stories there, go read something else, come back to it. Um, and kind of the only thing I'm reading fantasy now really is Discworld, but once again, they're not long books. Because for me, that was peak fantasy. Revisiting it, I'm actually getting more enjoyment and finding more things on this second time round. But yeah, maybe the trick, actually, I was thinking about it the other day, is to read a series as it is being published, because that naturally breaks it for you.
Mm.
Because when you see the four, the five, the seven books on a shelf, and you see them all there, it's like, oh, you know, I gotta do this. But if you pick one and you know the next one is not coming in 1 or 2 years, you can break it up.
Dude, the problem with that, especially with fantasy, is that a lot of people start a series and never finish.
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the price to pay, isn't it? If you're a Patrick Rothfuss fan, you're probably pulling your hair out.
Yeah. George R. R. Martin fan.
Yeah, or another one that I love, Scott Lynch with the Gentleman Bastards.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, that's the risk.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people who don't even start a series until it's finished,
Hmm.
even if the first book is critically acclaimed, darling all over the internet. They won't read it because it's until the series is finished. I'm not going to
Yeah,
set myself up for disappointment.
I understand that position.
Yeah, I do too.
I've done that for a long time. Um, and I got my fingers trapped with, like I said, Gentleman Bastards and A Song of Ice and Fire. So I get that. But I think it's in diversity there is richness there.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm falling a little bit into manga. So I'm now reading Death Note, and I got my eyes on a box set of Full Metal Alchemist for Christmas. So and they are nice because you can pick one of those volumes, read it in a day or 2 days during the weekend, and then you're ready to dive back into something else, and that works for me.
it's funny you bring that up. I was watching. I don't know if you remember Slowly Read. He has a YouTube channel. But he was one of the reasons I got into YouTube and this kind of thing is the books that he read. Because he turned me on to like Baker and a lot of other books I've read. I can't think of at the moment, but uh, Peter McLean, a lot of those books I heard about because of him. And he stopped doing YouTube for a while. He's been doing some gaming streams and things, and he talks about how BookTube felt like it started feeling like a job,
Hmm.
and it was a lot of time investment to read these big long books, and he just didn't feel like he was getting that satisfaction from reading these books anymore. He just felt like I read all I wanted to read, and he just said, "Well, now I'm reading manga because there's such a variety. There's so many stories, and they're so rich, and they're not as time intensive as reading a really long series. So he can get through them faster. You know, Not having enough time is a real thing because as you have a family and everything else, you have work. So I think manga and comics. I think people see comics as kind of capes and cowls and kind of for kids, but there's so many great books out there, and they see manga again as for kids, but there's so many great manga stories out there. So I think if you want to break, if you're listening and you want to break from these long series, manga or comics it's an excellent option. It's a lot less time investment.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it in past episodes. The only issue with comics is the cost
Yeah,
per time, isn't it? You're going to read it very quick, and it's going to
yeah.
cost you what a chunker is going to cost you, if not more.
Mm.
But yeah, if you need to break things up a little bit, uh, that's really recommendable. Not One Piece though. One Piece is a long time investment to read as well. I had a look into it, and when I saw how long it is, it's like, nah, I can't be doing this. But yeah,
Yeah, I think a good option too is using Libby or Hoopla. There's so many books that are free on Libby and Hoopla. I'm not sure if that's available for you there or not, but All you need is a library card, and you can sign up. And there's books, there's movies, there's music,
Oh,
there's comics, there's manga, all for free. So we're reading. We're gonna Jared and I for panel chewing are gonna start reading the Frank Miller Daredevil
so
series. Yeah, we got through the Chris Claremont X-Men. All that was available for free. So yeah, there's options to get free stuff out there if you're pressed for cash. Like if that's something that because it does manga can get expensive,
mm,
and comics can too.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing, actually, because Chris Claremont did his run on the X Men was is mythical,
Mhm.
um, and he's a super nice guy. I actually met him once, and super nice, super nice guy. Um, One way to get around, I mean, manga, if you can buy the box sets, they on Amazon they are always usually they got like a 50% discount on the retail price,
Hmm.
and the box set cost is already a significant saving relative to the individual volumes. But then when you get this Amazon discount on top, it works out really well on a cost per volume basis. But obviously, you got to dish out maybe $150 in one go. But you're getting 27 volumes, like on Full Metal Alchemist, 27 volumes at $150.
Hmm. That's
Um,
a lot.
it's what, $3 per volume, something like that. That's pretty cheap. Less, actually.
Yeah, that's really cheap. Yeah. Have you read Berserk?
No, talk about unfinished series. I know you guys have been doing that, and again, it's another long one. Um,
Yeah.
it's another long one. I've seen it, but yeah, but again, no story needs to be that long to be told. Um, so I think with manga, because of the way it's published in Japan, they just gonna keep churning it.
Mhm.
Um, and then it's got I don't know. I haven't seen that in Death Note yet, but Dragon Ball certainly has got that problem of the power creep. That because you're
Yeah.
gonna keep churning it, then every new enemy has to be stronger and scarier than the previous one, and then when they defeat it, you have to keep going, and it's just disappears up its own backside.
Yeah, it's a problem when you go in and Berserk. It's volume 43 or 42 or 43 was published here in America. I don't know, 6 months ago, and I think we're still a year away from the next one. So it takes so long
Yeah,
to get updates, and it's hard to remember what happened when you're waiting a year in between your volumes.
yeah. So we were advising a few minutes ago to dive into manga for a quick break. Be careful.
Yeah. Well, even there's the book that we read together. I forget the name of the book. The spirals.
Hmm? By Junji Ito.
Yes. So there are standalone
Hmm.
volumes like that that you can buy in like a one collection, and it's a complete story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there are options out there to to get into manga and comics. But yeah, it can be pricey.
Yeah, everything can be. Everything can be. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I got a couple more topics of conversation. But
Yeah.
if you got a list to go through, we can leave it for some other time.
No, I was there was one more thing I was going to bring up is I've seen I don't watch a whole lot of booktube anymore, just people I know, but I keep getting these suggested videos about how there's so many bad books now. That there's so many bad
Mhm.
books being published. But I think what people forget is that there's 8 million books published every year, and you're going to have the more books are published, the more shit you're going to have. So I do I don't know that that's a new thing. I think it's always been that way. You're not going to have the most popular, the best books, subjectively the best written books at the top of the bestseller list. You're going to have whatever's popular on TikTok at the time,
Well,
or whatever's going viral, or the most popular dark romance that is hitting the shelves.
yeah, we're going
So
to talk about that one. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about that one.
Yeah.
Um, so this okay. So this is I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with one of the very few booktubers that I follow, which is Bookish Chas, if
Mhm.
anyone out there, because he actually talks about books. There are so many channels on BookTube that don't talk about books. They talk
Yeah.
about issues around reading, but you know, I started a BookTube channel to talk about books, to review books, and apparently that's a no go. That's it's a guaranteed recipe for lack of success. Is to talk about books in BookTube. Yeah,
How dare you?
exactly. I like that. So, um, where was I going with this? Um, yeah. So one of the channels that has crept up lately in my algorithm is called Second Story. I think
Hmm.
Second Story, Second Stories. I think it's Second Story. It's a lady, um, and she was talking about how, because of whatever you guys have been doing with education over there in the US, like all modern writers write in the same way. So actually, you are not getting much diversity in terms of style of writing, and that the quality of the writing has decreased over the last few decades. That's her premise. That's what she presents. Whether you agree or disagree, I actually don't know what the real issue is. So obviously, you've got that. And then when I used to think that indie publishing was a guarantee for lack of quality, because if you had to indie publish, it's because you got rejected. Whereas now, actually, I have found much better written and edited books in the indie sphere than in traditional publishing.
Hmm.
And when I was talking to Larry Correa about it last week, he said that the agents, the gatekeepers, have done such a bad job that that's part of the reason why you have a slight what's the word I'm looking, not resurgence, but there's a slight effervescence in the indie sphere, and you're getting some very good quality indie authors out there.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting the way indie publishing is changing the landscape with I think the bigger publishing houses now want to churn out the book, and I think the quality standards have slipped because of that, because of the if a book goes viral, you want the next one, or you want to, if the book was viral before release, then you want it out, you want to push it, or if it goes viral, get the sequel, get it written and get it out.
Mm,
Because with the way that social media works and the algorithms, you have to strike while it's popular, because the next book is going to go viral and replace your book. So it's, I think it's just wanting to get more and more and more out, and the quality is not the way, not as good as it used to be. But with so many indie books, there's a lot of bad indie books out there.
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to find the top or the top, but there's a lot of bad indie books out there.
Mm. I
But
would
yeah,
say,
the quality is good
I
for
would
the
say,
top here.
the people that associate with this podcast and the pay to win forums that are indie authors, they're very good.
Yeah,
Obviously, we talked to Thomas Devens and Holly Tinsley, and I've genuinely enjoyed their books, and I think they're actually good.
yeah,
Like, I don't understand why they are not getting a publishing deal. I don't know what boxes they need to tick or don't tick or whatever, but I will happily read anything they turn out.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it's nice knowing people, being friendly with people who are good, because you would hate for them to be, because that'd be an awkward conversation. But no, I think Holly does a great job, and Thomas, I loved Scroungers and his other books. So it's nice having being able to have those people that are working it. And Thomas, it seems like he just wants to write books. Like he's not. I don't know that if he got a deal, if he would take it. I think that's something we asked him when we talked to him.
um, I think it would, but so long as he keeps writing, yeah, because I'd rather I'd rather read his books. If I could like go back in time and like change my choice of reading at some point, you know what I mean? Like, i if I had this sort of crystal ball that told me how much I was going to enjoy a book,
Yeah.
and like his books, I would have read them sooner. But there you go.
Yeah.
So you did mention something I didn't know existed until a couple of days ago: dark romance, and talk about TikTok. And seems like book talk is for women. I don't know. I don't have TikTok. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I'll never use that.
Right.
But yeah,
So
from what I understand, it's pretty.
have you
It's yeah.
have you heard of the latest trending book in the book talk dark fantasy sphere?
Uh oh.
I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna let me find the title because I want to give you its full. And apparently it's amazing, and everyone is reading it, and yeah, it's the absolute yes. Okay, are you ready for the title?
I'm ready.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
It's called Morning Glory Milking Farm.
I'll fill in the blanks here.
Okay,
What
so
that's referring
so
to.
yeah, it's a young lady uh, shouldered by debt after pursuing higher education. So how do you pay off that debt?
Uh
You open an OnlyFans, but no, not here. No, what she does is she goes to a farm, hence the milking. But what is she milking? It's not cows. She's milking minotaurs.
Minotaurs.
Yeah, minotaur. Sorry.
Or yeah, I don't know how to.
Yeah,
You might.
yeah,
I don't know how to
yeah.
pronounce it, but yeah.
That's what she is milking. So, but minotaurs don't have others. So, what is why you milking? What? What? Yeah. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That's what the book's about. That's what the book's about, and everyone is super. Yeah. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, we could be missing out on something major here, Steve. But I suspect that it's not very good.
Oof. I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Ah.
guess good is I guess good is subjective. Maybe it's well written. I don't know. Maybe it's well constructed, but maybe it has a good plot, good character development. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe, but I'll never know because I'll never read it. But
Yeah. Yeah. No.
yeah,
No. Absolutely. But and I think this conversation is going to get maybe a little bit. I don't know. Adult here, but again, I think it was the second thought, second reading channel where basically she compared this dark fantasy or the effects that this dark fantasy thing is doing to the female brain to what high consumption of pornography does to the male brain. Because in both cases, what it's doing is altering the perspective of what relationships are like in the real world and is creating unrealistic expectations of said relationships. And where some people would disagree on that, apparently, it does have got some kind of it makes some sense because the male brain is a bit more visual, hence why men go down that route, and the female brain is a bit more emotional or more sort of creative that way, which is why they prefer it on the page.
mhm.
So it is putting those two things at the same level, and that's for you to investigate, research, and decide if it's the case or not. But just because it's on a page, it doesn't mean it's not what it is.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I think I saw that video too. I'm not sure if that was posted on the forum or
I
not. I
think I
remember
did.
seeing it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I did a
yeah,
few weeks ago.
it's a while back. So yeah, you know, it sounds like there's some science behind that now too, with it altering brain chemistry when you consume too much of it, or it changes it changes your brain chemistry. And it seems like there's some scientific studies now that prove that in some people it changes your perception. And of course, it's a problem for men because it's there's a lot of issues with, and now with the with the internet and with the availability of pornography on the internet, it's a huge problem for men, for a lot of men. So yeah, I think it's something that it's I don't know that it's everyone. I think some people can enjoy it and just put it down and they're fine. But I think it's the overconsumption is where it's going to be. It could be an issue for whether men or women consuming
Mhm.
certain types of material. I think it after a while it will, you want the more extreme version next time, and you want it just like the power creep that we talked about in manga. It's kind of the same thing where you need the next thing to be more extreme or
Mm.
more taboo or more uh, titillating in some way. You dull your senses and you need something more. You can't just be, a the next villain has to be even more dangerous and more powerful. So yeah, I think I think a lot of people don't want to admit this, and I'm not sure why. Uh, the people who read this type of material, and again, I don't think everyone who reads it is experiencing this change, or I don't think it's everyone, but I think some people who overconsume, who it can be an issue.
Yeah. Um, I mean that. So, is there a difference between dark fantasy and romantasy, or is it pretty much same thing, same
I
box?
think I think dark romance is more. What do you say? It's more pornographic. I think dark,
Spicy,
like
spicy, spicy is the
spicy,
word they use.
spicy. There you go, spicy. I think romantasy, I think, is just fantasy with romance in it, which a lot of fantasy has romance anyway. But I think the romance becomes more of a focal point in the plot. But dark romance, I think, is more graphic
Mm.
and intended to titillate and not be just a good story. The purpose is to have it's pornography on the page.
Yeah, and it's a clever marketing ploy, isn't it? Because by calling it romance rather than pornography, you're kind of slapping on this seal of approval that it's okay. It's for girls or for women, as romance is traditionally marketed at. But they wouldn't call it paranormal porn or dark porn or you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't
Yeah.
be the same thing, would it?
No, it'd be different. It's all in the how you label, it's all in the packaging, right? And
Yeah.
there's some of these books. I'm not sure if you've seen them, but there's some of these books that the covers look like children's books. It's hard to spot them if you don't look into it.
I stay away from anything with a male nipple on the cover. That's usually my rule.
A lot of these, there's a cover. I forget the name of the book. There's a cover that is at department stores. There's this book that's at department stores, and the cover looks like shop fronts, and it has people like on a street walking around. It looks like a children's book cover. There's no, if you walked past it, you'd think, oh, that's a YA novel, but it's dark romance. Or
Yeah.
you, you never know until you read the synopsis or get into it. So they're getting more and more clever with it.
Yeah.
But it's
And like
selling, it's selling like
no, but,
hotcakes.
but 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 by calling it that, they're giving it this sort of seal of acceptability that it's okay, it's safe.
Yeah.
It's not what it actually is. And I actually in 2 weeks' time, of course, schedule a podcast with a romantasy author.
Oh,
Uh, so I was approached by her publicist, and my initial response was, "This is so far from my interest or my audience that you don't even know who you're talking to here." And I was so tempted to say no, but then I thought, what about if we have the conversation? Like, what's the appeal? Try to convince me of the appeal of this, or what's going on behind. So I'm going to have that conversation about, yeah, that genre, what the appeal is, what the thinking behind it. If it's some sort of, because this is a strategy. If you're going to start writing romantasy, dark porn, paranormal porn, whatever it is, you've got a strategy in mind, or you're certainly focusing on a particular segment of the market, isn't it?
Hmm.
So
And
if you
there's
want
got to
to,
be a formula to it, right? I mean,
if,
I'd be curious to hear that.
if you want to join the conversation, at the moment it's just me, but it's
Yeah,
booked. So
let me know the time and date. I'll see if I'm available.
yeah.
But I'd
Mm.
love to hear more. I don't know if it's something that an author who's trying to sell a book would really discuss, but I wonder if there's a formula that's used because there's a formula in romance. I mean, it's one of those things where everyone knows it, but not everyone admits it. There's a formula. There's certain beats, just like in fantasy. There's certain
Yeah.
beats that you hit, and it's not to bag romance. It's I think that's just one of those things. I mean, there's formulas to fantasy. There's formulas to horror. There's formulas to all these different genres. It's not to badmouth romance. It's just there's certain
Yeah.
beats that you want to hit and kind of optimize your to your readers and your people who read your books that kind of expect, even subconsciously may expect. So I'd be curious to hear if there is some kind of, you know, framework that you kind of try to follow. But,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's popular right now. I mean, it's I think the most popular genre right now is
Well,
romance and dark romance.
romance has always been the biggest selling
Yeah.
genre ever,
Yeah.
and this dark romance thing, I don't know, but the whole romance thing is very low key because the biggest Spanish author, like in selling numbers in history, is not any of the Nobel prizes we had. It's not any of the whatever. It was this lady who used to write little romance novels, like 150 pages or so, and she used to churn them out like, you know, one a month type thing.
Wow.
I, well, I'm exaggerating, but
Wow.
like you said, beats, the tropes, the structure, and she wrote like, I don't know, 100 novels or whatever it was, and she's the most successful writer in terms of numbers. But not very many people know about her because it just appealed to that middle-aged women market,
Mhm.
and obviously there was not much literary quality to it. It was just a case of churn them out, sell them in the kiosk, and come back in 2 months' time for the next one.
Mhm. Yeah, and I want to make it clear: there's no judgment. If you enjoy dark romance, if you enjoy romance, go for it. I mean, enjoy have fun. But I think it's a little disingenuous to not admit that there are some people who it can be a problem, and it's not everyone, but it can be an issue. But you know the you meet a lot of people who read, obviously, and how many people have you ever met and you said, "What do you like to read?" And the first thing they say is romance. It doesn't really happen too often. Now
Yeah.
it's more dark romance, but romance has always been the most selling genre. But you hardly hear people talk about it. I think people just read it, on their own and enjoy it and move on because it is kind of disposable most of the time.
Mm. Sorry, when you were saying that, I just went to ChatGPT. So this Spanish Romance author I was telling you about, Corinne Tellado, apparently she wrote more than 4,000 novels.
4,000 novels.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh, she's the most read author in Spanish after Cervantes, but that's obviously because of Don Quixote. Um, yeah, between 4,000 and 5,000 novels, depending on. Yeah, so she was just churning them out. I said one a month, one a week. I don't know.
4,000. Wow.
Over a long time. But I don't know if that's a master of her craft, someone that understood exactly what the assignment was and just got on with it.
Yeah.
or basically wrote 10 novels and just changed the names. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, she could. I mean, over 4,000 novels. Did she ever just repackage one of her older ones and give it a new name and
Yeah,
change the
possibly.
name? Maybe,
Possibly.
but
Who would know?
I mean, good for her. I mean, that's awesome.
But there you go. That's and and Spanish is what the third language in the world, second language in the world.
Hmm. Wow, that's prolific. You had mentioned someone had reached out to you about an interview. Who do you decide to interview? What's your process for that?
Bruh. Usually, I'm not very discerning. I'll talk to everyone. Um, so I think we've talked about it in the past. So okay, the next I've got two interviews coming next Friday, the one after. Next Friday is a lady that does tarot reading and uses tarot as a tool for writing. So like I'm curious about that. Like that's
Hmm.
it's a topic that okay, how did you do this? There's a lot of myth around tarot, so um, I found an interesting conversation. Uh, so there's that. And the next one, like I said, is romantasy, and my initial reaction was to say no, but uh, because I thought, well, let's talk to someone that thinks differently from me, or possibly the complete opposite. So I thought that would be another interesting conversation. The people that ask me to do book reviews, that's a different story. Because if it doesn't come across as genuine, I'm actually going to say no. I'm sure you do as well, Steve. You get these, pre-made email where they send to however many booktubers. And one of the last ones I got, it didn't even have my name. It was just like, hello. And it was the name of the channel. So it's like, okay, I'm just one of however many. So I'm not inclined at all to talk to people like that. However, if it is the author that gets in contact with me directly, I'll be more willing to talk to them. But obviously, sometimes just my reading schedule doesn't allow me to, or it would take me months to be able to read the book. I'm not there waiting for someone to send me a book so I can drop everything I'm doing and
Hmm.
read their book. Um, so yeah, anything that people that don't even bother to find out my name, or actually write a more personalized email, um, I I don't want to deal with. And let's be honest, my name is on the channel's name, so just write dear Jose, not Jose's Amazing Worlds of Fantasy. That's just you know fail at the first step.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. But I mean, I'm sure anyone who does even a little bit of booktube or book content, you'll end up getting these emails wanting reviews, and all the reviews I mostly send to the bloggers for the site.
Mm,
And that's just someone that I really that's just someone that I really like Ken Liu. I was contacted by his publisher to read an arc of his latest book, but they contacted me like 5 months ago, and I had 5 months to read the book. It was like 300 pages. So when that happens, it's okay. Well, and I
yeah.
like Ken Liu, so I'll read the book. But most of the time, it's my book releases in 2 weeks, and it's 1,000 pages long. Would you like a copy? Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
thanks. Um, and even if it's months away, it's unless I know the person or I know I'm familiar with their work, it's tough to squeeze it in.
Mm, yeah. I mean, I've got so like the Larry Correa interview. They did something quite clever because Arc Press is a new publishing house. I think Larry's book is going to be the first one that comes out there. So they contacted me. The book's not ready. Well, no, there's an arc of the book, but what they did was a comic book to
Mm,
accompany the book. And they went, well, here's the comic book to get an idea of the world and the kind of thing that is going on there. So it was easy to read the comic book and then use that as a springboard to have the conversation. Um,
that's a good idea.
but but there was no expectation to read the book before then because, like you said, they contact you and you schedule the interview for like in the next week or the next 2 weeks, it's difficult to get through a fantasy book in that period of time.
Yeah. With interviews I've been a lot more selective. In the past, I talked to anyone, and I thought, well, this will be we'll find something cool to talk about. Unless I know the person or unless I'm familiar with them, usually I'll go and look at their social media and see what they're
Mm.
posting about. If it's overly political, I'm not interested.
Oh,
Yeah, I've talked to too many people without looking deeper into them, without kind of seeing what their focus is, and it just becomes this whichever side of the aisle they're on doesn't matter. I don't want to talk. I'm not here to talk politics. I'm not here to talk that kind of stuff. If it's related to their book, like if they're writing about the drug trade or the drug war, then of course we have to
yeah.
talk a little bit of policy and things like that. But if I look at your profile and you're ranting and raving about this or that or for this or that, or I'm just not in. If your focus isn't writing and your craft and your book, I'm not interested. I'll talk to I'll be good. I try to stay away from that kind of stuff, and it's hard to get away from it. But
Yeah, I think that's something so that I found out. Uh, so secondhand from Jim Butcher, where he said his line is, "Don't preach for longer than you can entertain." So, like don't mind the sprinkling your beliefs or your politics in a book,
yeah,
but with that caveat,
it's
and
good advice.
that sort of makes sense to me.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of my thing. I've emailed people like Alan Moore for
Good luck.
interviews.
Good luck.
They replied. I mean, his agent
Yeah,
replied, and they
yeah,
were
he's
very polite about it. So I was, that made my day. Just even getting a decline, but it was a nice no,
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
It was cool.
Ah,
There's other authors who I've emailed, and they've been like, "Do you get 1,000 downloads in your podcast? We're not interested."
I tell you what, it's happened to me twice, but here in Spain, not for anyone international. You approach a couple of people. I've approached a couple of people whose work alike, and they go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, that's great, okay." Um, so reaching through Instagram, send me an email. We put it there. Send the email, radio silence,
Mhm.
and it's like, mother hopper, like, why, why do this? Or someone else, you know, schedule the interview. Yeah, yeah, we're good to go. Here's my photo. Da da da. Day of the interview arrives. They don't show up,
Yes.
and then, oh, sorry, I forgot. No worries. How about some other date? Radio silence.
Yeah.
Why are you stringing me along? I don't get that. I don't get it. See, it's like between you and me, my wife sort of does that every now and then, where she feels so she finds rejecting something so violent that she would rather make up some elaborate
Mm.
lie to just say no, and it's like now you're making your life way more complicated because then to cover up that lie later you have to make the whole thing is noble. Just say no, I'm not interested. Just say I want to spend my time at home watching a movie. I don't know.
Just say no, thank you. I don't have time or whatever. But yeah, just that's. I've had so many people not show up. When I was using Podmatch, it's a service that
Oh
tries
yeah.
to match podcasters with people that are in your sphere. I had so many people not show up, and this is after I would have to try and get home early or try to alter my schedule. And it's like, if you can't make it, just say you can't make it. Don't make me sit there like an idiot waiting for you when you're, oh, I forgot. Well, then don't schedule it then. You're wasting my fucking time. Don't do that. It's disrespectful. So it really pissed me off. Um, so yeah, I've just become a little jaded with the whole thing. Like, if you're not going to take it seriously, no waste my time.
It's complicated, isn't it? When you rely on people, you have to expect a certain amount of disappointment
Mhm.
of being let down, isn't it? I've forgotten we had a schedule for our podcast, Steve, and I got my timing so wrong, and I let you hang in there once. I was
Oh, I mean
mortified.
but we
It
know each
happened.
other. That's different. I mean, we know each other. Like if we like this morning, if you said, "Hey, I can't make it," whatever reason, my kid's sick, something came up, whatever, no big deal. We know each other. But if it's someone who is a stranger who
Yeah,
you schedule this time, and just if you email me or you let me know ahead of time, yeah, I'm sorry I can't make it, even a few minutes before, sure, things happen. I get it. But to not show up
yeah,
and then
yeah,
to not reply days later, that's no, come on.
yeah. That's just rude.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh well, it's the it's the it goes with the job, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it does. And that's why I've tried to be more, I try to find people who take it seriously, who are, you know, who would be interesting to talk to. I emailed Brandon Sanderson, and his rep or whoever it was like, "Do you get 1,000 downloads each podcast? Are we consistently?" Like, no. Like, bye,
Yeah,
go kick rocks. So yeah, it's not the, but hey, sometimes you get lucky and someone says yes. So
yeah. I like a polite rejection. I can,
yeah,
so I emailed Jim Butcher and he was very polite and I don't do this sort of thing and da
mhm.
da da da. Da. It's like, well, okay, that's
Yeah,
that's fair
I-
enough.
and I get it too. I mean, I don't know that I'd want to do podcasts unless I knew the person. If I was a successful writer, because you're putting yourself out there, and it's kind of a hassle, and so I get it. But just a nice no, thank you, best of luck. Cool, I'm good with that.
And also, I don't know, you tell me, but I've usually pretty much everyone that has been on my podcast, they've come back.
Yeah.
So there must be something I'm doing right there.
Hmm.
And when things go well, when you finish off the recording button and you still stay there talking for a bit,
Yeah.
things are going well. And whereas I've seen some interviews with like big booktubers, but they're a bit cringy because there's too much of the fanboy element going on there. Where maybe I'm being judgmental here, but you know, like some, it's just a conversation between two adults. I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Not everyone's great at doing interviews. It's tough to. Mm, But I guess if you're interviewing like if I was interviewing Alan Moore, I'd probably be a I don't know. I might not be
Yeah,
able to hold it together either. So, but there's a lot of like the bigger booktubers. I think another thing is I think if you get used to talking to yourself or doing solo stuff all the time, and then you have an interview with this really famous author, it's tough to transition to change your style because you get so used to doing a certain thing.
but it doesn't feel organic. It's like a
Right.
series of questions. There's
Right.
no kind of dialogue, isn't it? It's like question answer. Okay, I suppose that's the difference between an interview and a conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I usually go into these things with about three questions, and we end up talking for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So, you know, because I'm trying to have conversations rather
Right.
than an interview.
True.
And I would think of things as we go along, but I don't know. With Alan Moore, the problem is that we'll possibly spend 4 hours talking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just on V for Vendetta, let alone his whole works.
Oh
So,
man, that'd be great. Maybe one day he'll say yes.
okay.
I've emailed R. Scott Baker. I don't know how many times. He'll never reply, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I would no, because I was thinking I've done that a couple. Someone I wanted to talk to, and I got like no reply. It's okay. The email's gone, but there's no reply. So I wait a prudential amount of time, email again. And I think like the third time I emailed, there was like, "Oh, your email has been flagged as spam by the receiver." It's like, "Oh man,
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah, yeah." Like I've been blocked. All right.
Oh well. It
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it happens. But you have to try sometimes, and sometimes they'll say yes. So you know,
Yeah, you got
that's-
lucky. I don't know,
yeah.
but but
But
I
it's
also
tough. Yeah.
but I also find because people have been open with me, like before saying yes, they've actually checked out what I do. They want to see
Yeah.
your style and what you do. And have you had people do that with you?
Yeah, I've had people go and listen to older episodes and say, I think this would really fit because it's more of a conversational, casual style, and I'm more comfortable with that. So the people who have listened who didn't like it, I haven't heard from them, but there have been a few people who have said, I listened to this episode and I really liked how like easygoing things are, and it's not really, like you said, it's less of an interview, more of a conversation. And so I've had people do that, and it feels good because they also know what to expect coming into it and know that it's not going to be this. It'll be more of a flowing conversation, less of
Mm,
a question and answer.
yeah, without any agenda. Like, although I mean, sometimes I've asked the question because you have to sometimes address the elephant in the room. Because so you were what Larry Correia did in the last book of his fantasy series, The Dedication.
Mm-mm.
So basically, in the time since Martin finished whatever the last book was on A Song of Ice and Fire, Dance with Dragons. So since then, Larry Correia has written a six-book fantasy series. So in the last book, he dedicated it to George Martin, and he said, "See, George, it wasn't that hard." So I obviously had to ask him about that. Like
Yeah,
you,
of course.
you have to go. What's this? And sometimes I'm asking the difficult conversation, but I don't have an agenda behind it.
Yeah,
Like I'll ask the question, listen to the answer. I'm not going to enter into an argument. Just hear that point of view,
right.
um, and let me or the people listening decide if it's a valid or not.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was his answer for that?
Oh, apparently he said he had a bit of him and George Martin had a bit of a disagreement at some point somewhere in a convention or something like that. And Larry Correia is a bit belligerent, so he just he took a dig.
Is it undeserved? I don't know.
No, but we both agreed that George has got FU money, so he probably didn't care about it.
Oh
So
yeah, he has FU money for sure. Yeah, he'll never finish. He'll never finish that series. I don't
no,
think.
no, we've talked about it. It's not
Yeah,
going to happen.
I had faith for a little while there, but it'll never happen.
No.
Unfortunately, it's too
Even if
bad.
you were, even if you were in the camp that he's trolling everyone and that he's actually finished both books, even those people must be thinking now, actually, uh-uh.
Yeah. Nah.
Yeah,
He's right. He has so many projects. He has so many things coming up. HBO, I'm sure, is asking him for more material for a new series, for a new this, new that.
yeah.
Help us with this. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I don't think he has any desire to go back there.
No,
So
no, no. I don't want to talk about it anymore. We,
yeah,
we always end up, we seem to regularly, recurringly end up in this topic of conversation.
it's hard not to sometimes, but yeah,
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 it's that deep, deep, buried desire to actually say it. But
yeah.
anyway,
You had mentioned earlier about booktube and how a lot of the channels now are discussing book related content and less
yeah,
books.
yeah.
There was a YouTuber, I forget his name. He had made a video about how no one does book reviews anymore and the reasons why. But so he was kind of upset about people not doing book reviews anymore because that should be the foundation of a booktube channel. But I disagree. I think as YouTube, because I guess there was a YouTuber, a booktuber who made a comment and said, I write book reviews, but I don't record book reviews because nobody
Mm,
watches them. So this is the thing. I don't think that it's a bad thing to do that because once you get to a certain point, you and I both know that it's a lot of time investment to do videos and to do content. So if you're going to make a book review that 30 people watch, or are you going to spend your time making a anything else in the world, analysis on a series or something that will get a lot more views for the same amount of work, you're going to pick the thing that's going to get more views. You're going to cater to your audience and to what's going to what's going to be watched. It sucks to spend time on a book review that nobody's going to watch. And should more people watch book reviews? I don't know. That's up to them. But people don't watch book reviews very rarely, unless it's a book that is popular or viral at the time. Most people just aren't interested in it. So I get why people stopped making book reviews, and I don't think there should be. I mean, if everyone wants book reviews, but nobody watches them,
Yeah,
so it's a tough. It's everyone says they want book reviews, but nobody watches them. So I don't think it's an issue. I mean, of course, if there's content that I don't like, I'm not going to watch it. Like all this booktube drama crap that's always going on at some point. Don't watch that stuff. If you want more book reviews, watch book reviews and watch less of that because that's what's going to change things. But I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, book reviews and
I think you're right, but I think you got to do the content that you want to make, and depends on what you are chasing after. Like,
yeah,
I think I don't know if knowingly or unknowingly you said it that way, but if you're chasing views, yeah, don't do book reviews. Done. Um, but I'm not chasing. I'm not chasing views.
yeah,
As always, it would be nice to have more subscribers, to have more views, because that allows us to reach bigger authors and stuff like that, and have more in-depth conversations. But I can't, and I don't know what is going to get me more views. I haven't got the time to fight the algorithm. I don't have the time to do better what other people are already doing, to pick a hot topic and analyze it and pick it and do an in-depth research and present both sides of the argument. I can't do that.
mhm,
So for me, it's just a hobby. I'm doing what I do, and we're here, and I'm having a good time, and that's it. I cannot ask any more than that. I don't have the time,
yeah,
um, and I don't have the inclination. I'm not chasing anything here, so
yeah,
it works for me.
yeah. I mean, I can see why like bigger channels who depend on that ad
Yeah,
revenue avoid book reviews, though.
yeah, yeah,
It never feels good to spend a lot of time and effort on a video that gets 30 views and just it sucks.
yeah.
So I get why some people just choose not to. I mean, it's your time investment versus reward. You could still write a book review. You can write a Goodreads review. You can write a blog post. You can do other things for the review, but it takes time to do that stuff. So I get why people don't do them, and I don't think it should be a problem if somebody chooses to not do a book review because of the traction it gets, because no one's going to really watch. Their audience isn't craving a book review, and that's something that's been I'm trying to get used to because I had the the mindset of I'm just doing what I want to do and whatever happens happens. But at some point, do you want to look at it and say, what are the 30 people who watch my stuff? What do they want? What should so do you do what you want to do, or do you try to do something that because your audience will tell you what they enjoy, the more, because you get more traction on certain things. So do you cater to your audience or do you do what you want to do?
Well, I suppose there's two answers to that. Then cater to your audience. Nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But then are you going to become a slave of that, or do what you want, and you will find your audience and the people that connect with you?
Mm.
And then what do you get more satisfaction out of? Three meaningful comments on a video that you make that actually lead to some sort of exchange that makes sense and gives you a different perspective, or you get so many thousand views with little engagement. And those two things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. So don't get me
Yeah.
wrong there. Um, yeah, I don't know. Everyone will take their own decision, would make their own decision,
Mhm.
figure out which way they want to go. Um, if I worried about that sort of thing, I wouldn't mix graphic novels and books.
Yeah.
They seem to be different spheres, and whenever I talk about graphic novels, nobody cares about those. I heard my good friend Ian in booktube say that he treats it more like a reading journal, and that sort of makes sense to me as well. I treat
Yeah.
my channel more like a reading journal. I don't know. Maybe at some I don't know. My kids maybe someday in the future will discover that and find what daddy left behind. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've mixed in manga and comics too. I just didn't see that because I had them separated for a while. But I just thought, why manage two different podcasts? Just put it all together, and that's what I'm reading. And if people enjoy it, then cool. And if not, then they don't. But so
I mean, I don't know. Are you trying to give your audience what it wants? How do you know what your audience? Well, I suppose you know with the level of engagement on each
yeah.
video or each episode. But are you trying to cater for other people?
Well, it's funny because for a long time, I just did what I wanted to do, and then I realized, looking when I kind of was purposeful in looking at what my most popular videos was all the stuff that I enjoy doing. Was all the second apocalypse, was all this book Negative Space that I'm reading again now. That's really popular. Frost is popular. And that's why I did all that. I haven't recorded the podcast yet, but I wrote the blog post for it. So when I sat down and looked at it, the most popular stuff was things that I enjoy the most. And so I thought, all the Cormac McCarthy stuff is really popular, and I enjoy all that stuff. So I thought, well, why don't I just focus on things I enjoy, and these are the things that I like. So let's just do more of that. So it was actually a good thing. If the most popular thing were things I didn't enjoy, then I think I'd have a different outlook on it. But so now I want to take a deeper look at things like the Second Apocalypse or, the Cormac McCarthy stuff. So it ended up being a good thing that I sat down and looked at it and thought, oh, turns out the stuff I enjoy the most is the stuff that people enjoy the most. So I should do more of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I just don't think I've got that. I haven't got the time. I haven't got that focus at the moment. Um, yeah, I just got too many things going on. So I don't think in the near future I'll be doing what you've done.
Well,
But great
it,
for you,
it's
man.
it sounds like it's this big long scientific journey, but it was just what are my most downloaded episodes, and it's like, oh, okay. So it was like
Mm,
it wasn't a long deep dive. It was just what are my most downloaded episodes, and that kind of went by that. So it
yeah, yeah. I
worked
don't
out.
know because we talk about indie publishing,
Hmm.
but if indie publishing is easy, having a podcast is even easier.
Yeah, I mean, audio podcasts I think is much easier than YouTube.
Yeah, and once again, I'm not gonna try to compete with the super produced, elaborate podcasts out there. I'm not. I'm doing my thing, and that's I think that's it. That's all I can. Therefore, I'm just gonna do my thing.
Yeah, and I think there's some authenticity in that. And I think the bigger you get, if you do have this overpolished style or this kind of this level of production, then people come to expect that, and you have to maintain that level all the time. And also, the bigger your channel gets, the more idiots you're going to get that roam around. So it's a double edged sword because the more popular you get, the more people are watching, the more likely people are to just be assholes for no reason.
Mm.
So it is nice having kind of a small group of repeat
Yeah.
watchers or listeners.
The worst podcast I ever listened to, would you believe, was I think pre-pandemic. I think when podcasts became like a big thing, um, and it was the one with Bruce Springsteen and Barack Obama. And I was thinking, wow, Obama and Springsteen doing a podcast. This must be amazing. Started listening to it, and there was something off until I realized that they couldn't have been sitting together having a conversation. you could almost hear the click edits where Obama
Mm.
says something, then Springsteen says something. But, oh, they're not having a conversation. They're not together. They've just recorded bits and sent them to each other. And I thought, what could have been, these, iconic American figures. Um, I don't think it lasted very long
Hmm.
because, like you said, it lacked authenticity.
Yeah, that's really weird. You'd figure two people like that can make the time to sit down for 20 minutes and shoot the shit for about whatever.
Particularly because this was after Obama, you know, uh, stopped being president,
Mhm.
and obviously Springsteen is not on tour all the time. So I don't know, but it was just I think it was a great idea that just got lost in I don't know, maybe schedules, maybe I don't know.
Yeah, there's lots of there was this podcast that the cast of The Sopranos does.
Yeah,
The daughter,
with
have you seen that?
oh, there must be several of them because there was one with I know the characters' names, I don't know the actors' names. So Bobby Bacalieri and Christopher, they did a podcast where they went through
Hmm.
every episode.
Oh wow,
Um, but if you're saying there's one with the daughter now, then there must be several.
there's probably
Everyone,
yeah. But they did this. It's the two kids. I forget their names, their real names. But the two kids, they have different people from The Sopranos on as guests,
yeah,
and they had Andrea Di Matteo on,
Drea Di Matteo, yeah,
and she was promoting her OnlyFans,
yeah,
and
that's creepy.
yes, and she was just, and the guy who played the son was telling her like, you're like an aunt to me because I grew up with you, and you're like this parental figure for me because we grew up, it was my childhood, and then they're discussing her OnlyFans, and then she talked about how her son
That's the
takes
editing.
photos, yeah, does editing for her only.
Mhm.
That was the weirdest shit I have
Yeah,
heard in a while. That was
yeah,
really weird.
yeah.
Did you see
I
that?
I haven't. I don't know why I found that out because I'm rewatching The Sopranos now for the third time.
Hmm.
First time with my wife. So we are on season. Where are we? Season four, season five, somewhere there.
Oh, that's good. It's good
And
seasons.
I don't know why I kind of was searching, and it's but these Hollywood types, or maybe not Hollywood types, but if you've almost made it, because Drea Di Matteo had a role in that Friends spin-off, Joey. She was like the sister.
Oh,
I think that only lasted 2 seasons. So you've kind of almost had a career out of it. I don't know how well paid the Sopranos cast were back in the day, if it's enough to retire. But maybe you're just clinging on to that and going back to a day job. It's just a no go. So OnlyFans and cash off, fans of the show from 20 years ago. It sounds really weird, though.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where if they want to make some money and they want to do that, then more power to them. I mean, if there's an audience and people pay for it, then whatever. But when when you're there and when you openly talk about your kid editing your content for OnlyFans,
13-year-old.
and the co-star that calls you an aunt is talking about how he subscribed to your OnlyFans, that's weird. That's weird. I don't know. That was really awkward. I don't know.
Yeah, but what Hollywood child has turned out all right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. It has to mess you up. It has to do things to you. I mean, at a young age to be thrown into the spotlight like that,
Because I
it
was
has to change your.
I was watching a video yesterday. It was a commentary on Will Smith's attempted comeback, and I didn't know he had released a record that was
Hmm.
thrashed and it was rubbish. And but his kids, they're mental,
Yeah,
and
they're out there.
apparently he said that they just raised them thinking that they could do whatever they wanted, so long as they apologized after.
Wow.
And he was like, okay, that's an interesting take on parenting.
I guess when you're rich, it's a whole different. thought
Yeah,
process. And the super wealthy people in the world, like the P Diddy's and these people, they live in a they live in a different reality,
yeah.
you know. And the things that like people like P Diddy had done, and probably would still do if he was out. I mean, these people are sick. I mean, they're
I think because you're right, and I think the only thing that is keeping you and me honest is that we're poor. Because if we had FU money and we can pay everyone off, and we had the best lawyers money could provide, we would try. We would try to get away with this shit, but we can't. We can't afford it. Therefore,
I don't.
we have to be honest, people.
I mean, I think of course I think you would push boundaries, but I don't know that. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the stuff that P Diddy did, but
No, I know
holy
he's done
shit!
something, but I haven't looked into it. I've got
But
no idea what he's done.
it's pretty rough. It's pretty bad. But everyone was afraid of him because of who he was, so nobody wanted to say anything. So he pretty much did whatever he wanted to do for 30 years. So yeah, I think there's wealthy, and then there's super wealthy. There's these people who live on a different level in a different reality where they just aren't touched. I mean, he got the key to New York a few years ago, and come to find out the dude. Well, people who weren't paying attention figured out that he's a scumbag. So it's a weird time we're in right now. I
Yeah,
guess it's always been. I guess the super wealthy have always run rampant. I mean, in any time period.
I've got a question for you. I got every so often I will get into an argument on the internet with people just because. So you, so I know you're not a great footballing nation, but you ever heard of Cristiano Ronaldo?
Yeah.
Right. So apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but it was announced last week, a couple of weeks ago. He's the first European footballer to have actually become a billionaire, right? And he comes from an alcoholic father. You know, he comes from really rough background, worked his way to the top of the world. He's a billionaire, whatever. And then there's someone there in the comment section going, "This is immoral. This is unethical." Da 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 da. And I said, "What's unethical about it?" I said, "Oh, he's got all this money where there's people suffering, fighting a system that they cannot, you know, that is unfair to them." I was like, "Look, the only thing he's done is he's managed to master a skill to a level where millions of people are willing to pay him to see him do it." I you know, and that's how I see it.
Mhm.
You know, is he worth all that money? I don't know, but people are willing to pay him to kick a ball, um, and not just people, millions of people. So I don't know. He probably does a lot more for charity than anyone here listening together. So I don't see any unethical stuff in there. Um, but I don't know.
So I get I get the reason behind being upset over that, because when teachers get paid peanuts, and they're the should be the most important, some of the most important and well paid people out there,
I agree.
and then there's these athletes are making billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars for a few years. I get the reaction, right? I get, like, that's not fair. Okay, I mean, is it right? I don't know, but like you said, someone's willing to pay him to kick a ball. Millions of people are willing to pay him to kick a ball. So it's the supply and demand where people want to see it. It's entertainment, and is it right? I don't know. I mean, of course, people like teachers or firefighters or law enforcement or these other people who, you know doctors, people who work in hospitals, and healthcare is really expensive. So I get the idea that it's not fair, but I mean, it is what can you do I mean,
No, but it's
it's not his fault that he's been successful. I mean, he's earned it.
it's a value system. I'm a teacher. Of course, I should get paid more. But
Mhm.
the fact is, society values more entertainment over
Mhm.
education or healthcare. That's just how it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
We value more uh,
Yeah.
an athlete than a teacher or a nurse.
Yeah. I mean,
Whether that
yeah.
no, whether that's again, inverted commas, right or wrong, whether that's ethical, that's a different, but that's the reality.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big NFL fan, American football fan. I'm gonna after we're done recording this, I'm gonna go watch some games and sit here all day and watch football games. So I sound like a hypocrite when I say this, but I do worry that we governments have always distracted the populace with entertainment, whether it's movies, music, sports, the Coliseum. There's always
Mm,
been a distraction to distract the populace from the real issues, keep them busy, to keep them occupied, to keep them arguing, to keep them engaged with ultimately meaningless things while they pull the strings and they control things. And whatever political party, they're all the same, right? They all
yeah,
control. There's all forms of, and entertainment can be a form of control. So in that sense, it kind of, but what can you do? I don't know.
absolutely. As a one, I was actually, how do you say this in English? I'm looking for the word. No, how do you say? Okay, hang on. Say something, Steve, while I look for this.
So yeah, no, I was just bringing up the fact that I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, but entertainment is a tool that is used by governments to keep us busy, to keep us distracted, fighting amongst each other.
There you go. Thank you. So, I would recommend people to read. Oh, come on. Um, Socrates, Aristoteles,
Hmm.
politics by Aristoteles, and these people, these Greek ancient thinkers, they figured the world out
Yeah.
thousands of years ago, right? So in the book, he talks about these three main types of government, and they all got like the light and dark, the positive and the dark side of it. And one of the forms of government is democracy, which is allegedly what we have, where the people vote and we do this, that, the other. But he said that the dark side of it is demagogy,
Hmm.
where actually we're not discussing important things. We're not worried about the things that really matter, and we are being distracted. And I firmly believe, reading that for me was like a fuck. This makes sense. We are in demagogy. Well, for me, the main role of government is only two of them, which is healthcare and education, and
Hmm.
everything else is peripheral. And whether you're Democrat, Republican, or whatever country you're in, your two, three, whatever main parties, what they should be sorting out is your healthcare and your education. And then everything else we can argue about. But we're not doing any of that.
Hmm.
We are arguing about other things that are not the important matters. And I think you're right. There's all this distraction, there's all this creating conflict because we are not addressing the main issues. And
Yeah.
what can we do? Like we know, we sort of accept it because just one person. But I truly believe we're not in a democracy.
Well, a lot of these side issues that are most prominent in the news and people argue about, I think they're topics that are pushed to us so we can argue with each other and not worry about the more important stuff.
That's right.
And the more that we argue over these dumb things, not dumb things, but kind of not as important issues, the more control that they have over us because we're distracted with other things that shouldn't be at the top of the priority list.
Yeah.
And the demagoguery is definitely an issue. This idolization of political figures, of who should I vote for? Well, who can I have a beer with? I don't care about having a. I don't want to have a beer with. I don't want to know if they can run a country, if they make the right decision, if they know when to press the button on the nukes. I mean, that's what I'm worried about.
Mm.
That if I can have a beer with this person. So yeah, it's a strain. The priorities have really shifted over, and maybe they haven't shifted. Maybe it's always been this way.
Yeah. And I think at this point, I I'll have an answer. So I'm going to let you go back to the football, and I'm going to pay some attention to my kids because
Okay.
my oldest one's spelling is atrocious. So talking about education, if the
Yeah.
government is not going to sort it out, I'm
Yeah.
going
Go
to
for
have
it.
to. I'm gonna have to step in. Steve, always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Before and until next time, where can people find you?
YouTube, Hosts Amazing Worlds of Fantasy, and the podcast. Check out the last interview with Larry Correa. It was really good. Fantasy Talks live in every major podcast platform.
Yes, and those links are in the description, so be sure to check that out. So thanks again for coming and hanging out and talking nonsense with me for a while.
I enjoy this. Always a
Yeah,
pleasure.
I'll see you soon. Thanks everyone for listening, and have a great weekend.